Hey guys, Kyle the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for My Hero Academia Chapter 208. Okay, so I may as well start off with how much I laughed at the beginning of this chapter and Monoma's WTF reaction when the sudden realization hit him that, yeah, Bakugo has changed and he has learned. So I guess the only question remains is how are you going to respond, Monoma? And taking the humor out of the situation, I'm dead serious on that last question because at this point, I genuinely want to know how Monoma and Izuku are going to respond, especially since it's their groups that are up next to fight. Although I will say, I think one thing we can expect is to see Monoma definitely working through some issues during next week's exercise based on the prediction I made when this arc began. Like for those who don't remember, I predicted that that Monoma either way is going to or I guess it wasn't necessarily a prediction. It was actually more a wish. Like I wished that Horikoshi would actually take this moment to in order to actually develop Monoma, and from the looks of it, it seems like Horikoshi is following through on that. So like I guess the prediction hope I had when this arc began is starting to come true. And yeah, with Monoma, he like for just based on this chapter alone, it seems that the seeds have finally been planted for Monoma to start in order to start his journey as like a proper hero now. Because yeah, Monoma has remained pretty stasis, but yeah, next week is finally gonna be his time, and his time to finally step into the spotlight and see where exactly he goes. Because I get the feeling we're in for a bit of a bumpy ride when it comes to Monoma's development. Either way, and yeah, the theme of today's chapter was teamwork. Because if last week's chapter was a prelude to what we'd see out of Bakugo and his team, then this was definitely the climax, because it gave me exactly what I wanted, with pretty much everyone playing a part in defeating the other team. And Bakugo's inner monologue in this chapter really summed that up nicely on how that was possible. Bakugo's inner monologue said, "If I'm in trouble, it's up to you guys. I'm putting it on you guys in order to save me," or I think he called them losers, but yeah, putting on you losers to save me. Which like that inner monologue alone, it shows that yeah, he's not only learned of what he wants to do as a hero. He not only learned as to what he wants to do in order to become the world's greatest hero, but and how to incorporate who he is as a character in order to do that. But he's also learned that yeah, he's also learned that yeah, he's basically learned in order to trust people, and he's learned to trust people finally. And above all, that is kind of the most important thing when working in any kind of team. Like it's one thing in order to develop yourself yourself and who you want to be as a hero, which we definitely got an abundance of in last week's chapter. But in this week's chapter, it developed Bakugo's abilities in order to work as a team, in a team. And yeah, this in a team. And yeah, like I said, he finally learned in order to trust people finally too. And the clincher for me in terms of the teamwork of Bakugo and his teammates, and of Bakugo and his team, for me the clincher that encompassed all of that was the strategy that they used in order to take out Kage. I mean, yeah, in order to take out her with her lizard splitter ability, like in terms of how they managed to overcome her abilities, it was one of those strategies that was a strategy that was a bit of a no-brainer, I guess, if just by simply looking at the applications of her quirk. Like it was obvious in order to kind of in order to attach in order to attach one of Bakugo's grenades to one of her to one of the pieces that she separated from herself if they come back to her later. But at the same time, I really can't be too critical or fault that kind of strategy either, because the one thing I think, again, I think the one thing we've all learned from Horikoshi's series is that he managed to work with the simplest. He managed to works well with simplicity in the best ways possible. Working with the simplest of means is one of Horikoshi's specialties, and yeah, again, it just worked well here. Like it's the simplest things that end up working in the end, and the strategy that Baku came up with to defeat Tokage just worked. It really did. So having said all that, I will admit I was initially thrown off just in the fact that this exercise just ended in 2 chapters, but it's even if I did have an initial problem with it, it still works well in the context of Bakugo's group having the better teamwork. And yeah, I'm sorry, I gotta throw a little shade on Class B in this chapter, because that strategy really was the worst one in history. I mean, it makes okay, I'm willing to give them just a sliver of benefit of the doubt that it works well. It would have worked if this was Bakugo in the beginning of the series that they were pretty much dealing with, but in terms of but we have to all understand that this isn't the same Bakugo. But this isn't the same Bakugo. This isn't the same Bakugo. He has changed. He has developed. He has even though he is still even though on the surface he does have that arrogant facade. Underneath it all, he has changed. So, yeah, it's I'm sorry, but Class B, that was one of the worst strategies you probably could have come up with in order to defeat Bakugo. And I think, but at the same time, I think with just how bad that strategy was, I think this clearly illustrates that UA pretty much is almost needs to encourage a lot more of these joint sessions now, because both classes pretty much clearly have things that they can learn from each other. Like if nothing else, I think the whole strategy that Class B had in order to defeat Bakugo, for stupid as it was, I think it did clearly illustrate a bit of a disconnect between Class A and Class B for sure. And in a bit of a disconnect between Class A and Class B. Like, Class A and Class B, they pretty much both have strengths and weaknesses, and they both have things that they can work on. But at the core of it all, the one thing I think they can learn above all else is kind of from each other, is basically to be a little bit more mindful and a bit more open to just how open to just to pretty much to looking beneath the mask and looking at who the person has become, pretty much underneath it all. I think that's the most important thing they can learn. Also, now aside from all the other stuff, I'm probably reaching on this one. Like, I'm probably just grasping at straws on this one, but I couldn't help but feel that with how much of a dim-bulb strategy Class B came up with, I couldn't help but feel that Horikoshi was basically calling out the readers who keep insisting that Bakugo hasn't changed with this strategy. Like just in how much of a dim-bulb strategy that was, I really couldn't help but feel that Horikoshi was almost unintentionally, whether intentionally or unintentionally, pretty much calling out everyone who said, Bakugo's the same character he's always been, he hasn't changed a bit. But yeah, again, I'm probably reaching on that one, but it just kind of feels that way almost. Now, going back to Monoma for a moment, it's, as I said, he's going to be working through some issues next week for sure, and which will more than likely affect both his leadership and common sense abilities in next week's in the exercise. Because I think one thing that has been thoroughly established, but by pretty much the end of this chapter, is that his pride has been shattered. Like just seeing Bakugo pretty much accomplish all this accomplish what he did, but by taking out all the team members of Class B in Class B without losing a single one of his, it's clear that he kind of that he didn't even expect that to happen at all. So, just alone with his pride being shattered, I think that is definitely the first step to some great development. And knowing that, I can almost see him being, and knowing that when the exercise does start for pretty much Izuku's team and Monoma's team, I can kind of see Monoma being the first one that's going to be gunning for Izuku. Like we definitely like putting Shinso aside for a moment. I can see him pretty much being like. I can pretty much see the first thing that Monoma decides to do is okay. First things first. We're going after Izuku. We're taking him out first, which, in a way, is almost kind of a smart strategy to begin with, but at the same time, I think he's going to be doing it for pretty much the wrong reasons. Like Monoma, he's going to be gunning for Izuku because he wants answers. He wants answers about what the hell happened with Bakugo for sure. And yeah, it should be, in that essence, it should be both interesting but a dangerous exchange for sure. But like the more I think about it, the more I get the idea that I think whatever kind of development that Monoma goes through, I think both Shinso and Izuku are going to play a part in who Monoma becomes from this point on. Although, as far as whether or not Monoma will steal Izuku's powers, that one's a bit trickier to determine, because with One For All, it can't be transferred unless Izuku wills it, but with someone like Monoma, whose abilities is copying people's quirks and not stealing them, I'm not sure the same rules apply in that situation, and if he successfully copies One For All, then how much will be copied? Is he going to be copying like the memories of all the One For All users as well as the power, or like how? Like, yeah, I genuinely want to know I want to know if the time comes where Horikoshi does decide to do something that where if he decides that Monoma should copy Izuku's quirk, how is Horikoshi going to handle it? That's the biggest question running through my mind right now. But yeah, guys, that's that's all I have for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Crunchyroll. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.